When Phoenix traded for Bradley Beal, the move was received quite negatively. While nobody was denying Beal's talent, his huge contract was doomed to limit the team's roster flexibility, and he had been quite injury-prone over the past few years. Early on in the season, both of these problems came to light. Over the first 30 games of the year, the Suns had a 15-15 record, and Beal had only made 6 appearances. The team was inconsistent defensively, and they didn't have enough talent outside of KD and Booker to make up for that. Since December 29th, Beal has been a consistent part of the lineup, and Phoenix has gone 27-15 over their last 42 games. While the Suns look better now than they did to start the season, they still have major flaws, many of which were exposed in their most recent loss to the Spurs. As talented as this team is, they're one of the most frustrating teams to watch as well. In today's video, I'm going to go more in depth as to why that is, and explain why the Suns are stuck. Before we get into it, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,500 subscribers by the end of the season, and your support goes a long way. With all of that being said, let's get into the video. While I clearly don't have a positive outlook on the Suns, they do have some redeeming qualities. What stands out the most is how talented the roster is. Just a few years ago, Bradley Beal was averaging 31 points per game, and now he's the third option on this team. Between himself, Durant, and Booker, the Suns are simply able to out-talent a lot of teams. On top of those three, Grayson Allen is having a career year, and they're getting nice offensive output from Eric Gordon and Yusuf Nurkic as well. This team can stagger the minutes of their star players, experiment with KD at the 5, and spread the floor with an array of shooters. While we expected them to be dangerous on offense, their defense has been a pleasant surprise. On the year, Phoenix ranks 13th in defensive rating, but they've improved as the season has gone along. In November, the Suns had a defensive rating of 116.9, which ranked 23rd in the league. Over the past 2 months, though, they've been a lot better. Phoenix had the 9th best defense during the month of February, and while they've dropped to 16th best in March, that's still an improvement over how they began the year. Knowing how much offensive firepower they had, Phoenix hired a defensive-minded coach in Frank Vogel to bolster the defense. Again, if we're strictly looking at the numbers, the Suns have improved on that end as the year has gone on. However, these statistical improvements highlight the very problem I have with this team. On paper, Phoenix has tons of offensive talent, and statistically their defense has been slightly above average this season. With that being said, you'd think that would be a recipe for championship contention. In reality, this team is super inconsistent, and you don't know what you're going to get from them on a nightly basis. A few weeks ago, they beat the Nuggets in Denver without Devin Booker, but 2 days ago they lost to San Antonio without Wemby. The problem in that game is that Phoenix couldn't put the Spurs away. For most of the game, the score was close, but with 4 minutes left in the third, the Suns took a 9-point lead. While Phoenix appeared to have all the momentum, they allowed the Spurs to go on a 15-5 run to close out the quarter. The Suns looked like they got comfortable, which caused them to commit bad turnovers and force up difficult shots. Those bad habits continued with the Suns up 100-99 with 2.5 minutes left in the game. While Beal had to exit with an injury, Phoenix still had the 2 best players on the floor in KD and Booker. Despite this, they were only able to score 2 points in this span, and they lost a game they really needed to win. As you can see, there's little to no movement on these possessions, and they're simply relying on their talent to get them over the hump. If this fourth quarter collapse against the Spurs was a one-time thing, it would be excusable. However, the Suns have been by far the worst fourth quarter team all year. This season, Phoenix ranked last in the NBA with a minus 14.1 fourth quarter net rating. The second worst team is the Miami Heat, who have a minus 7 net rating, meaning the Heat's net rating is over 7 points better. To put this into perspective, there's nearly a 7-point difference in net rating between the Heat and the 15th ranked Grizzlies. For Phoenix to be that much worse than everyone else is concerning, and it's sad that they can't seem to solve this issue. Ultimately, the team needs to play with more urgency in the fourth, but for some reason that message hasn't stuck all season. At the end of the day, this team hasn't accomplished anything together, so they don't have any past results to fall back on. From what we've seen this year, this team appears to think they're better than they actually are, which partially explains the defensive mishaps, hero ball, and fourth quarter collapses. They make careless mistakes, which explains why they rank 25th in turnovers per game, and they're not always connected on defense, which causes them to give up easy buckets like this. Maybe it's a coaching issue, or maybe the personnel just doesn't mesh, but whatever it is, this team's lack of focus is holding them back. With 10 games left to play, Phoenix sits in 8th place with a realistic chance to get as high as 6th. Assuming they aren't eliminated in the play-in, they'll have to match up with either the Nuggets, Thunder, or Wolves in round 1. On any given night, Phoenix could beat these teams, but in a 7-game series you need to be disciplined if you want to beat someone 4 times. Again, the Suns do rank just outside the top 10 on defense, but they make too many mental mistakes for me to trust them. As I've touched on, their communication is inconsistent, and they make too many low IQ plays on that end. Obviously their defense isn't all bad, but come playoff time, there's a lot less margin for error. Teams like Denver and OKC are elite on offense, and even though Minnesota is quite average on that end, they're extremely efficient shooting the three, something Phoenix struggles to defend. On top of that, these teams are elite defensively. The Wolves have the best defense in the league, the Thunder are tied for 6th, and while Denver ranks 10th for the season, they've been trending in the right direction post All-Star break. Given Phoenix's turnover issues, I don't feel great about them in a matchup against an elite defense. That carelessness is going to lead to a bunch of fast break opportunities, and you can't afford to give up easy points when you're already the underdog. Best case scenario, Phoenix goes up against Minnesota in the first round and upsets them as they try to reintegrate Cat back into the fold. Even if they were able to move on though, they'd probably lose in the second round. The Suns have shown flashes of being a great team, but every time they get our hopes up, they find a way to let us down. The front office has prioritized talent over fit, and because of that, they can't seem to get over the hump and be consistently great. They don't have a natural point guard on this roster, and despite having some nice defenders, they don't have anyone that I consider an elite defensive stopper. While it's reasonable to think that they could run it back and improve over the years, their limited flexibility is not ideal. Next season, the Suns have nearly $170 million committed to KD, Beal, Booker, and Nurkic. Phoenix does have bird rights on Allen and O'Neal, and their owner Matt Ishbia wants to bring them back. However, after re-signing those two and hopefully bringing back Eric Gordon or Bol Bol, Phoenix's payroll will be close to $200 million. Considering this roster may miss the playoffs, the thought of going all in on this core is quite daunting. While they've had their moments, they haven't shown me enough to have faith in them as a contender. Considering all the assets they gave up to build this team though, they don't exactly have a ton of options. For all of these reasons, Phoenix appears to be stuck as a good but not great team, and considering how close they came to winning it all a few years ago, this has to be a letdown for their fans. Anyways, that's going to be all for today's video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. With all of that being said, I'm out, and I'll see you in the next video.